Welcome back again to Rundlii Gaming. This is going to be another video on another Magic the Gathering deck that I have. This one is going to be my Tribal Bird deck. It's usually probably one of my more beginner-friendly decks, because for the most part it's drop a creature and try to attack as often as possible. There's a few small things that you have to do every so often, but for the most part it's just drop a creature and attack, drop a creature and attack. And so that's the main point of this particular deck. So let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and draw our cards. Like in this case, this is about a pretty decent hand for what you'll actually need, because we have one of our 1-drops, which is good. He's a 4-drop, so he'll be a little while. Then we have some card draws, so we can draw into something else very soon after. So let's go ahead and drop our Suntail Hawk, and then at the point we'll untap and draw our next card. And most of the deck is going to be usually in the 2 or 3 mana tier. We have 4 cards that sit on the 4 mana tier, which is like the Messenger here. He's just for a little bit of card draw, but he's not a really good card in the deck because he's kind of expensive. But he does help me recover a little bit if for some reason they destroy all my stuff. So at this point we'll just drop a blue mana, and see at this point we would start attacking. So we'd go through with a 1/1 flying attacker, and that's why, as mentioned, it's going to constantly be that. Just keep attacking, keep attacking, keep attacking. So let's untap and we'll draw again. So thus far we don't have anything particularly great, because hopefully by now we would have had at least a couple more birds. This hand's going to be a little bit slower than normal. Sarah's Blessing, though, is pretty nice. Attacking does not cause creatures you control to tap, so this does allow you to start hitting and then blocking if needed. Though right now most of your creatures die if they block as well. So at this point you go down 2 damage, so it's not too big of a deal. And draw a card. And so at this point you're definitely going to need the card draw, so I would definitely drop this first. Yeah, so as I said, this one's going to probably be a little slower. Normally what you would do is on your next attack you would either draw a card for each attacking creature, you would just attack with both of your creatures if able, and then draw cards for it, or you could also draw a card for each bird you control. And since you already have 4 mana, that shouldn't be a big deal. It seems like we're getting flooded with mana a little bit, but in this particular case we'll drop that, and now we're starting to get a little bit of actual birds here. So probably what we'll do is let's go ahead and let's just go and concede. And so basically, to kind of walk you through the deck itself, right now there are 18 creatures, so there's still a pretty decent amount, though it's not a huge amount. There's a couple enchantments. Sarah's Blessing's pretty good. Usually, like currently I think I just run 1 in the deck, just for space purposes. You could run 1 or 2, depending on the situation. The soul catchers are actually really good as well. Whenever a bird is put into the graveyard from play, put a feather counter on this. All birds get +1/+1 for each feather counter on it. So at that point, you're basically just going to be running your creatures into everything you can to get them killed, and in doing so, it buffs all your creatures from there on. If you have multiple of those out, then it gets really done really quick. The prismatic shards is your fog, pretty much. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you of a color of your choice for that particular turn. So basically you can drop this, and then from there you can prevent, like let's say if they're running a green deck and they run through with a bunch of green creatures, you declare green, no green does damage. And you have 4 of those. They also have flashback. All you have to do is tap an untapped white creature you control in order to do the flashback. So basically each of those are 2 fogs that are built into it. So if you had a Sarah's Blessing out, you would have been able to attack and still have untapped creatures, which then at that point you could do the strands if you needed. The Keep Watch is mostly just for card draw purposes. Plus that's at instant speed, so let's say if they are doing aggro against you, and they attack you with, say, 5 creatures, you could do this on them, or you could do it on yourself if you have more creatures than they do. So it kind of works both ways on that particular one. This one is the Battle Screech. So this particular one, you can put 2 1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying into play. This does add to your bird count pretty quickly. The flashback on it is just tap 3 untap white creatures you control. So you can cast this for 4 mana, then you can tap the 2 that you just got, plus 1 other bird as long as you had 1 other bird in play that's white, and then from there you get an additional 2 birds. So you can pretty much get 4 birds for 4 mana, which is a pretty good investment on there. And then lastly you have Airborne Aid. Draw a card for each bird in play. Now, the reason I built this one is that I actually played against it, something similar, not quite the same, of when Onslaught was in Standard at the time. Because a lot of this was things like Airborne Aid, and then that pretty much gave him the card draw he needed in order to keep finding more and more birds, and then dropping them as quickly as possible. As far as like bird choices go, there are different ones you could go for. This one's really good if you are running all vigilance on all your stuff. This allows you to tap 2 untap birds you control, return target permanent to its owner's hand. So this allows you to bounce something that's particularly nasty on the board that you need to get rid of, or that could be a really large threat on there. Plus he's only 3 mana, so that's also a really big advantage as well. Then on top of that, you have some card draw. This one allows you to, because when he comes into play, you draw 2 cards and put 2 cards from your hand on the bottom of your library. So this kind of lets you filter through. If you're getting a bunch of land, this will allow you to throw some of those land to the bottom of your library instead of keeping them in your hand. So it's not a very good one. As I said, it's 4 mana for that, which isn't a really good ability, but it's okay. The Messenger Falcon, it's just a draw card for a 2/2 flyer. A little bit pricey for what you get, but it's mostly just a filler card for the most part. I basically used it for card draw. I'm almost better off just replacing these for if I can find any more 1 or 2 drops on there. These guys allow you to destroy enchantments, which is still pretty good. The target permanent becomes white until end of turn. Worst case scenario, you could always put in like a circle of protection white, and that might make this a little bit more janky as far as that goes, but overall I mostly use it for the destroy enchantment effect. So if there's an enchantment on the board that's causing me problems, I drop this and destroy it. Unfortunately though, sometimes if there's no enchantments on the board, he's stuck in your hand because you might have enchantments yourself, and you don't want to drop it and destroy it. Because the downside with this is that it says that you do destroy target enchantment, you don't get a choice in the matter. So if you're the only one with an enchantment on the board, you have to destroy your own. The Sundale Hawk is just a nice little staple card in this. It's a 1/1 flyer for 1. So pretty well rounded. This one gives you a little bit of recovery if you get hit by, like, say, a board wipe. Because when this goes to graveyard, remove from the game, then return up to 2 target bird and or creature cards from your graveyard to play. So at this point, let's say if you had one of these soul catchers down, they board wipe, you get, say, 6 feather counters, he would die, you return 2 birds to play afterward. As an example, you could drop like the Messenger Falcon into play, which will also give you a card, and then you'll also have a bird that gets +6/+6 due to the Soul Catcher on there. So, as I said, it's definitely a different kind of build, but it's more so designed to actually be a theme deck for birds, kind of like your tribals that you had back then. There's a little bit of card draw, a little bit of protection with like the prismatics, and then just a lot of creatures that you constantly throw at the enemy, and as they die, all your birds themselves get buffed up. So it's pretty well rounded. As I said, there's no standout weaknesses. I mean, there's going to be different things that come up. If you Wrath of God and then destroy all enchantments, you're probably going to defeat this deck, but usually you kind of need answers for both. Either you can destroy all the enchantments, and if you do so, all my birds will stay weak, but then I'll have a bunch of birds to attack you with. If you destroy the entire board, then hopefully my enchantments will stay on the board, and then they'll continue to be powerful as well. So, as I said, it's definitely a little bit easier to play. I would say this one's about medium speed because it doesn't actually start picking up a lot until probably turn 3 or 4. So if they're playing a quick aggro deck, you could still maybe defeat them if you get like a Soul Catcher out early. If you don't, you can still do Prismatics, and the Prismatics will basically fog you out of a pretty large amount of the damage that you would end up taking otherwise. So, otherwise, I hope you enjoyed watching the video. Thank you for watching Rundlii Gaming, and you have a good day.